Hi, everyone. My name is Caleb Persco. I'm the CEO of Spot.it. So I'm just going to get right into it right now. 2020, the year that changed the retail market forever. It may be no surprise that the antiquated way retailers merchandise their products are leaving them more vulnerable than ever. They use simple text-based codes that have to align with static planograms to determine product locations. This means that online competitors have been stealing market share for years, and the pandemic has compounded 5 years of this growth into 1 year. These competitors also consistently find ways to attack areas that were previously thought to only be serviceable by physical stores. This is on top of the fact that the retail industry has one of the highest employee turnover rates, and even though stores generate huge amounts of data, it can be difficult to read through the lines to gather useful information. The solution to this is one digital map that visualizes the data that stores already have to help in all of these areas. No need to change how things are done. Spot.it understands and uses what's already in place. A store can be mapped in as little as 4 to 6 hours, and then with the 4-foot codes that the store already uses in one simple report, the map knows where all the SKUs are. Maps are generated in different ways depending on the use cases. For example, it shows whole aisles to shoppers to help them navigate themselves while still maximizing impulse purchases. That same map shows 4-foot sections to employees so that they complete tasks like a veteran on their first day. We can also take in vast amounts of data to generate analytical heat maps so that instead of reading pages of reports, information can be distilled in seconds. We are not a new company. Spot.it was launched in 2017 with my co-founder, who owns multiple home hardware stores that grew into a network of paying stores. These stores provided the validation to talk to the bigger brands, and now our sales channel has retailers that represent 4,000 stores in it, and our first customers are still on board. We have hard data to show that stores using Spot.it can save upwards of $44,000 a year just by helping employees, and the technology is proven and patent pending in both Canada and the US. Our new platform, built in response to COVID, has seen widespread coverage from national sources like CTV and CBC. We've built relationships with companies like Reebok, and we are hoping to be the first mapping partner to be included in Shopify. The crown jewel of this expansion potential is our new platform and app. This platform was built in response to the pandemic, and it is essentially a digital flyer-style platform like Reebok, but with maps. With it, shoppers can view layout maps, search for products, find where sales are, and quickly grab everything for a recipe or home project. But the response from users wasn't just a thank you, it was, I've been waiting years for something like this. And this platform is already opening doors with retailers, as a recent TV interview opened up contact with Walmart Canada. We are also building a new tool for it so that maps will automatically translate into different languages so this platform can have new global reach. Now, you might be wondering, how can they expand to new cities with travel restrictions? Are they hiring people there? The answer to this is our new independent mapper program. We're essentially building a network of fairly compensated independent freelance mappers similar to an Uber model. These mappers get compensated to go into stores, map, or update them while not being directly connected to Spot.it in order to limit liability. This means that instead of having enough staff to draw all the maps, one staff member can manage teams of mappers in Toronto, Vancouver, San Francisco, and Houston. To give you an idea, a new city can be in a launchable state for as little as $4,000, and this means Spot.it controls the time frame with regards to retailers. With this ability to cheaply scale the reach of our platform, we've been able to grow it in its current size with less than $80,000. It has gotten to the point where we've mapped out sizable portions of retail networks and can get a snapshot of what activity is going on in stores. But this doesn't have to be a tool for shoppers, though. The majority of our revenue last year actually came from helping with employee efficiency. I'm sure you saw that $44,000 number before and were wondering how we got it. And that number came from a case study where the store estimated they got those savings from a 15 to 20% reduction in restocking times, a 50% reduction in time for price changes, a 10 to 20% reduction in price overrides due to better merchandising, and a 30% reduction in order picking times. Our system also has the ability to take in existing data sets so that information can be distilled in seconds instead of reading hours of reports. What makes Spot.it system a game changer is that the same map that makes the analytical heat maps is the same one that's helping employees and shoppers. There is no need to duplicate work for different uses. As for the financials, we are a SaaS revenue model, but there's ways we can extract value multiple times from the same store. The obvious one is to work with retailers. We charge them to set everything up, and then there's a fee for all shopper features and a fee for all operational features. We can also work with consumer price good companies that sell in these retailers by helping them attach maps to their digital ads as it becomes more difficult to advertise through traditional means. We can also help third parties add extra value to the services they provide. For example, we are already looking into helping merchandising companies build makeup displays with our employee tools. But to give you an idea what this looks like on a retailer level, a retailer that has 180 stores like Home Depot Canada can equate to $300,000 to $700,000 in annual recurring revenue. And that's relatively small in terms of store counts. As for our projections, they are the standard hockey stick, but given how we've been able to grow with such limited resources, these goals are quite realistic. Our revenue for 2020 fell short of expectations as lockdowns required a pausing of an in-store solution and the delayed implementation with the retailer BMR, but we expect this revenue to recover as pandemic restrictions lift and customers come back online. With regards to competition though, our competitors fall into two categories. The first is direct competitors, like Mapped-In as well as Apixion. These companies have capabilities to compete in the same space, but are heavily focused on the mall, office, and university space, and they do not have a public element like our platform. The second group of companies are not direct competitors, but compete in the same promotional spend space that our platform can capture, and they are the digital flyer companies. I'd like to focus on Flip here for a second because how they broke into the market with digital flyers is similar to how our platform will add mapping to the retail experience. Flip started digitizing flyers without permission, and as they grew, as Spotted is now, retailers started to pay them, and now we can't imagine retail without digital flyers. The beautiful part of this is we can add a flyer experience within a month, but it would take quite a bit of time for them to add mapping. This means we either become a serious player fast in this market or a buyout target in this highly competitive field. As for the founding team, there's myself, of course. I've been involved in running businesses since the age of 16. And as I mentioned before, there's my co-founder, Andre, who runs multiple home hardware stores. When he saw what I was trying to accomplish with Spotted, he wanted to be involved on the ground level. This provides invaluable connections and leverage for the consumer price good companies we will target for the platform's early revenue. We are looking to raise a $300,000 equity sale at $3 million pre-money valuation to add 500 stores to our platform in up to 4 new Canadian cities and start a US expansion with 2 to 3 cities. We would have a marketing budget that would allow us to grow our user base to 25,000 monthly users for leverage with retailers, and we would add a flyer experience with full-time development staff. At Spotted, we are striving to be the tool that will help shoppers navigate the new retail world. Thank you very much. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Caleb. Just as a reminder, if you guys have questions, just raise your hand. Mira, you can go first.
Yeah, really interesting, Caleb. Just curious, when you were talking about the independent mapper model, can you talk a little bit more about how those guys are paid? Do they need any particular hardware or software to make that happen? Do they need permission from the stores? And just maybe walk through that a little bit more, because it seems like a mode of expansion for you.
Sure. So the way we set up the mapper system is we essentially hire things like architecture students, freelance graphic designers, and then they go into stores and gather information how they see easiest for them. We have mappers who take pictures, they draw sketches, things like that. We pay them a certain amount to go visit the store, so they get a $20 stipend. We pay them $100 to draw a map, which is expanded if the map is a more complicated map, like a real Canadian Superstore. And then we pay another mapper $20 to go in and check the original mapper's work. That way, when we go out and have those conversations with the retailers, we can say that every map has been double checked for accuracy.
Thanks, Caleb.
So it's more the physical map. It's not the actual products that are being.
No, we don't actually want to hold, a store can have upwards of 80,000 SKUs. We don't want to hold 80,000 SKUs in a map. And in most ideal situation, all we add is a few dozen aisle numbers and a couple hundred 4-foot codes. And then with the reports and information that a retailer already has that attaches these SKUs to a code, we know where all the products are. And then it has the extra benefit is we aren't liable if we get, let's say, hacked for some reason, because there's no actual stored data inside of the map.
That's what I was curious. All right, thank you.
Matan?
Yeah, I've seen a few companies trying to solve this, tackle this challenge of in-store mapping. One of the challenges, this is kind of the challenge I'm putting to you, is again, how do you deal with the product level details, like where the product is? Because I see that's probably where the most value is. If you want to go find a particular product, you know exactly where it is. So what happens when the retailer, which they constantly update where certain products are, depending on what they want to promote, or you know, how do you connect their back-end inventory system to your map on your software? Well,
this is where we don't actually want to be holding those products, because yes, they can change. The difference is those 4-foot codes that they use for merchandising very rarely change because they're associated with the physical fixture. So if they move the fixture, a map can be adjusted in under 5 minutes. But since we want to use the codes that they're using to locate these products, as they move these products around in their codes, it doesn't matter to us because all we're doing is their system says we need a map of this product. This product sits in this code. We then highlight a map of that code area, and we aren't actually storing any of the products inside of the map.
So, I mean, if it's simply just creating a digital map of the store with aisles and aisle numbers and all that, I mean, why doesn't the store just do that and connect it to their inventory management system? If it's just $120, why don't they just do it themselves?
Because to give you an idea, retailers are very bad at planning mapping systems. So one of the retailers in Canada that has a US parent company, the US parent has full mapping capabilities. But when they planned this out, they only said, we want to give maps to shoppers. They didn't plan for anything else. And now that whole American stack doesn't work on their Canadian tech. So we are trying to be the flip style attachment for these retailers in terms of locating, because every retailer in theory could build their own digital flyer in no time at all. Companies like Canadian Tire spend $100 million on their flyer. But when you have a solution that's easy to attach to your existing technology, like what we are striving to be, it's an easier in with the retailer than saying, okay, you can build your own solution, but that solution that you're going to build for shoppers, is it going to help with your analytics? Is it going to help the employees? Because in often cases, it doesn't. But even when we don't capture 100% of the retailers out there, we still provide an incentive for them to work with us, because we also open up this platform to the consumer price good companies. So we can go to Heinz, where Heinz has a harder time running TV commercials and radio ads, and say, okay, if you want to run a digital ad, let's help you give a map of where that product can be found across all of the brands that you sell in. So if a retailer doesn't want to work with us in attaching our services to their actual tech, it still provides an incentive for them to work with us, because these consumer price good companies that we're helping, it means that we're pushing traffic to all of their competitors.
Thanks, Caleb. Jeffrey, did you have a question?
I do. So based on the rollout and how you would be doing this going forward, are you attacking all retail stores, SMEs, small mom and pop stores? Do you have a focus on just large retailers? And how do you expand over the next 2 to 3 years to ensure that you take over the market at a rapid speed? And then can you talk a little bit about how the revenue model will change, if it will at all, when you start to bring on more of these locations?
Sure. Well, to answer the first aspect of this, we want to attack all aspects of retail. We've primarily focused up to this point at the grocery, as well as the targeted larger retailers like Home Depot, Lowe's, Canadian Tire, and Walmart. But we have stage planned rollouts where we can start to add stores like Best Buy and Staples, but also working with people such as Shopify. That allows us to also tackle the mom and pop stores as well. And we have hardware partners that we can do things like in-store displays with maps as well. But as we continue to grow, as I mentioned before, we can rapidly expand to all the key crucial city areas, because all we have to do is bring on board these teams of mappers, which all it takes is 4 to 5 mappers to get started. And we consider a city launchable once it has about 20 to 30 stores. And from there, it's easy to just continuously add stores. As brands want to be added on board, it's easy to bring them on board. And in terms of a pricing model, to give you a rough idea, it's about $100 to $150 a month to add shopper features with a retailer, $200 to $250 to run operational features with a retailer. We hope to charge consumer price good companies anywhere from 25 cents to an extra $1 on their conversions and digital ads. And we have the similar pricing model with companies such as merchandising companies, that if they want to run our employee tools to help better their services they provide to retailers.
Oh, I love that. And I'm a huge fan of how you guys have been doing the land and expand by getting mappers to join. There's been a lot of success in this market in the last few years from JibeStream and a few others that have been picked up and purchased. How do you see you guys fitting into this landscape as you continue to build out your mappers and grow this space and grow in this space?
Well, there's two very easy aspects, and I'm sure every startup says this, where they're going to say, oh, we're going to either grow to be the huge industry player. And yeah, I'd love to be that. I would love to be Flip, but with maps. But the other aspect of this is once we start to add a digital flyer experience, we're going to drastically change the field of digital flyers. And with regards to, we have very established digital flyer companies that earn hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue that if all of a sudden we have that same digital flyer experience, but have a map attached to it, it's something that takes years of validation, business models, and as well, we've talked to these flyer companies in the past as well, where they haven't showed interest in adding mapping. So we have a now defensible position. So if we come into the market with a very drastic change to the flyer experience, it becomes something such as Flip, where they're sitting with upwards of 600 to a unicorn status valuation. We become a very easy target for them because we are obviously a very real threat to their business model that they can't easily change and copy as well.
No, that's great. And the last question is more geared around these teams that you can deploy. Are they being paid to do the work? How often do you have to send them out to the same stores? And if you were to exit, say in 2-3 years, are they part of the team that goes part of that exit? And are there any other innovations you're looking at while you're building out the business?
Yeah, so when it comes to mappers, they are not actually Spotted employees. They're considered freelancers. So if we were to have an exit situation, or if I were to give you another position is, if we're working with a retailer, they might say, here's our planograms. You don't need to send mappers into our store. In which case we can just easily manage the maps from a nice head office but to give you an idea of how often mappers have to go into a store, a grocery store will change 4 to 5 times per year in regards to the fruits and vegetable sections. They might change the store layout once every 5 to 7 years. And stores like Home Depot and Canadian Tire, they usually change about 3 times per year. And when stores change, we quickly send mappers in. They get a $15 update fee, and it takes them 5 to 10 minutes to update a store. But as we move to exit, if the purchasing party wants to include these mappers to keep that same reach, it's just a relationship that's managed, and they would take over that relationship. Or there's no requirement that they bring the mappers on board. But in terms of other things that we can do that are really cool, we are planning an AR experience that can use this, because what you do when you make a map is you create a spatial environment. So we can optimize picking orders. We could have our own meal kit company. We could have our own Instacart basis, because when you know the merchandising knowledge of a store, you have such power in terms of all of the services you can derive from that.
I love it. Okay,
Thanks,
perfect.
Philip.
Thank you.
Amazing. Great job.